With a colorful toy collection lining his wall for inspiration, Dan Schoening's Victoria studio is a motivating space to work in. His days illustrating often hit 12 hours long, but given that he loves to draw, for Dan, his job is a dream come true.
Sometimes I have to pinch myself to remind me that I'm actually part of the history of these iconic characters in films, and even in the small bit that I do contribute, it's still a really big honor and privilege to be a part of it.
Dan is an artist for IDW Publishing and draws for the Ghostbusters comic book series and the new Back to the Future comics, two film franchises that really came to life in the 80s when Dan was a kid and just learning to draw.
I grew up with a lot of this stuff, and some of it's stuff that I've had since I was a kid, like the Ecto here. I never got rid of that. I even have like the old tape. This would probably be in that Back to the Future in the second film when they had that store with all the antique stuff. This would be in it. The first time I saw Ghostbusters, I saw it in the theater in 1984. My first experience with Ghostbusters was quite frightening, but my mom encouraged me to stay. So, and I'm glad she did, because I've really developed quite a love and passion for that film. It's really timeless.
Ghostbusters saw four heroes suit up and save New York from a ghostly invasion, and the comic that Dan illustrates shares more stories about the Ghostbusters team. In the new Back to the Future comic book series, Dan will be helping to illustrate stories that tie directly to the movie trilogy's storyline, which began in 1985.
Back to the Future, I think I've seen that film when I was a kid. I saw it in the theater at least 30 times. My mom was like, "You want to go see that again?" I'm like, yeah, let's go. I've always been really fascinated with the idea of time travel. And again, like Ghostbusters, that movie has just such interesting and dynamic characters that are still quite relatable, even though they're doing these amazing things.
Dan has a unique and recognizable caricature style in his art, which in the comic books adds to that relatability.
This is the final cover, and it's actually 4 covers interlocked. It'll be chopped up into 4, and you can, when you buy them, you can kind of put them all together and frame them if you want, or read them. The process that I try and do is I try to not so much caricature the actor, but caricature the character. So that's what I kind of go, especially with the Ghostbusters, because they're a lot more cartoony looking than the approach I have with Back to the Future.
Regardless of which series he is illustrating, all of Dan's caricatures are rich with emotion and expression, although he does have his favorites.
It's kind of a toss-up between Marty and Ray, I think. I always liked Marty because he's kind of a fish out of water, but he's still really determined and very confident, and I admire that in his character. I think that's really cool. For Ray, I just really like his enthusiasm. I think that's what really catches me the most, how excited he is about ghosts and just furthering science. Ray's more about the passion and the love of the craft. So, and I can relate to that with comic books.
How exciting is it to get your finished comic book in the mail?
It's cool to see. I actually, to be honest with you, I don't look at them because it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen interviews with actors and they're like, yeah, I don't watch my films. It's kind of how I feel about the comic books. I don't usually like going back and looking at them. So mainly because I'll nitpick it a lot. A lot of people say, oh, how do you spend so much time doing it? But it's just because it's like drawing for me is like breathing. So it's a part of me that it doesn't feel like work, which I think is one of the greatest successes in life. Is that's why I feel so blessed about what I get to do for a living. Is it doesn't feel like work when I sit down and start to draw. If I was to go back in time and tell my 8-year-old self that I was going to be drawing it, I would probably flip out. I can't really put words to it. It's just a really amazing experience, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Dan posts both to Twitter and Instagram regularly, and issues of Dan's and IDW's Ghostbusters and Back to the Future comics are generally available through local comic book retailers. For Go on Shaw TV, I'm Derek Johnstone.